So here's the deal. I am new to the watch world. I picked up my first proper watch in Japan, and over that first month, I noticed something surprising. A simple object was shifting how I saw myself. I'm not a psychologist, but I did my undergrad in psychology, so this has always been something that I'm curious about. And whether you're new to watches or you've loved them for years, I think you'll get what I mean. There's actually a name for this: symbolic interactionism. It's the idea that objects aren't just things, they're symbols, and the meaning we attach to them shapes how we see ourselves. And that's exactly what was happening. So during that first month after leaving Japan, I ended up in a hospital waiting area in Bangkok. Have you ever been to a public hospital in Bangkok? It runs like a factory. There is fluorescent light on cold white tiles, there's rows of chairs, there's numbers on a big screen, nurses moving fast between stations, there's bloods taken, Velcro of tearing off cuffs, there's clipboard snapping, papers ruffling. It's efficient, but it's endless. It's this mix of lives intersecting in one place. The school uniforms, the work boots, the hospital gowns, where I sat with my ticket in my hand and I had time to think. In the middle of all of this, I realized the watch on my wrist is changing how I see myself in that room. I've talked about this moment before. It hit me hard at the time, but looking back, I realized something deeper. It wasn't just about mortality. It was about identity, about exposure, about how this little machine was pulling me into a new way of seeing myself. And once that realization landed, it didn't stop there. Suddenly, I was hyper-aware in other places too, like sitting in a small neighborhood restaurant in Bangkok, just an ordinary spot where everyone was living life on a modest scale, and suddenly I felt like I stood out. Or back at my desk here, realizing the value of this watch compared to what some people earn in years. Each situation added weight to the question, why does this thing on my wrist matter so much? And it makes me wonder, how do people reconcile this?
Normal people, they're just checking the time. You're checking the meaning of time.
Fair. Later, I started asking, why did I even want this watch in the first place? Was it about identity, belonging, curiosity? That's where the symbolic interactionism helped me unpack it, because we don't just buy objects, we buy the meanings attached to them. And those meanings come from culture, people, stories, what we think something says about us. Traditionally, a watch like this is a symbol of success, a reward, a cherry on top. For many people, it carries the feeling, I earned this, I can wear it when I want. But my life doesn't really fit that mold. I wasn't stacking this on top of other fine things. This was a standout, a stretch, not a signal of arrival, maybe a sign of curiosity or ambition, or both. And in places where it clearly didn't fit, that story broke down. So when I bought this watch, maybe I was chasing a story, but wearing it made me realize the story I had in mind wasn't the one unfolding. There was a gap between what I thought it meant and what it actually meant. And maybe that tension is the whole point. And maybe you've felt something similar, not just with a watch, but anything that made you feel seen in a way you didn't expect. Looking back, I don't think I bought this watch because I'd earned it. I bought it because I was curious what it might feel like to carry something refined through a life that isn't, to see what kind of meaning that it would take on in a world that doesn't follow the script. And that's what symbolic interactionism really gets at. We don't just buy objects, we buy the idea of what they mean. And that meaning, it isn't fixed. It shifts with where we are, who we are, and how the world sees us. And for me, that meaning didn't really land until I wore it in places where it clearly didn't fit. Because here's the thing. I keep hearing people talk about a travel watch. But for me, my whole life is a travel watch. I move between countries, currencies, cultures. I go from safe zones to sketchy ones, high-end to back alley, often in the same week. I've taken tuk-tuks, I've slept in airport lounges and tested the limits of Bangkok's cheap accommodation, but that really is a story for another day. So when I wear something like this, it's not about flex or comfort, it's about context. It's about reading the room, reading the neighborhood, reading the risk. I'm not trying to bulldoze through the world with my wrist out. I've always tried to blend in, but this watch made me stand out more than usual. And that's saying something. I'm already often the only white guy in the countries that I live, so maybe being comfortable isn't about having the right to wear something anywhere. Maybe it's about knowing when it works and when it doesn't, and adjusting. Because how we move through the world changes how things mean. We all carry things that mean something, and sometimes they start to mean more or less than we expected. This was mine. So does that now mean that I need a travel watch? Something with less of an existential crisis?